students, it's me, Mr. Reaver, and today we're cooking up some layers of rock. Well, sort of. I want to show you a little bit about how those layers of rock in the Grand Canyon that we were investigating formed at the bottom of the ocean. We saw that there were fossils trapped in the different layers, and we know that the layers were laid down in different orders, and we can tell by the fossils that are inside of them. But how did that happen? Well, let's create a model so that we can take a look at what's happening millions of years ago when those were formed. First, I'm going to start off with some bread. I already cut off the crust, so I'm going to set those to the side for my chickens. Scoop this out to the side here, and I'm going to tell you the story of those layers of rock forming. First thing that happened is we have our ocean, and at the bottom of our ocean we've got this nice sandy floor. That's some white bread. And as some animals are swimming around, loving their life in the ocean, they die. And they sink down to the bottom of the ocean and lay in this sandy floor. They don't just stay there though. Another layer of the same kind of sand is going to come through. I'm going to poke a few holes in this here so that we can have a few of these animals sticking in and out of it. And that covers over the top of them. I'll put a little animal right here. Have him stick in and out. That one's kind of sticking in and out. There we go. And they settle there. And while they're settling there, they're not just floating around loose. Water is really heavy, and a whole ocean's worth of water is incredibly heavy, and it is pushing down on these layers of sand and getting them to stick together and form something more solid. Over years and years and years, a new kind of sediment starts to get washed into this area of the ocean. That's our rye bread here. And it lays over the top of this old sand, and it's still getting pushed down and down and down on top of those animals. And the whole time, those animals don't just stop swimming around, living their best lives, and then not living their best lives anymore. They're still sinking down to the bottom of this layer and getting covered by that same new type of sediment. I'm going to set a couple more in there. This is the last of our poor little gummy animals. This layer too is getting squashed down and squashed down and squashed down, and finally a last layer of sand starts to wash in. That's our wheat bread here. And it comes over the top and it's getting pressed down. And another second layer comes in and it's getting pressed down. And we have now a sandwich of science. I'm not going to eat it though. We need to simulate what it's like for this to be pressed down and pressed down and pressed down for millions of years before this ocean shifts away and now humans are walking around on top of our sandwich of science. We don't have millions of years to wait, but we're going to give it a couple of days. And because I don't want to stand here holding it down, we're going to take a board and a weight. We're going to, oh, actually, I want to set this sandwich of science on a paper towel and put another paper towel over the top of it. This one's kind of falling apart. And then place down a board and a weight. There. You are the ocean now. We're going to come back and check on this in a couple of days and see how it's similar to those layers we looked at in the Grand Canyon. I'll see you then. All right, students, it's been millions of years. Well, long enough for me to change sweatshirt, and for you, no time at all. But we have here our rock layers. We made those rock layers out of different slices of bread, and now the water has receded, or in our case, the weights are being removed from it. And what we're left with are these rock layers that people can be walking around on top of. Notice how our rock layer has changed. It's much flatter, a little harder now that all of these pieces are condensed together. Also maybe because it's bread that's been sitting on my counter for a little while. Now, we're pretending that this is layers of rock. How do people know that there's different layers? Well, one way is like around the Grand Canyon. You can come up to the side and see. Another way is maybe they're digging holes like Mary Anning that we talked about before in our first unit. She noticed fossils that were just right underneath the earth and would dig down into them. River can also cut into this stack of rock and reveal the layers. Oh, right down in through there we have our river. You can see there the different layers that have been gouged out. The river rushes through and starts to pull down from the bottom and also cut down from the sides. We see these fossils being unearthed from underneath, and also those different layers at the same time. As it gets further and further and further down, it's going to cut all the way through. And reveal that delicious sandwich of science. Probably not safe to eat anymore. It's been several days. But look at all those layers. We've got those pieces separated. You can see here, even where those first sand forms were separated from one another. But then these fossils sticking up in between, they've been really compressed. It only took a few days for this to happen with a sandwich. But think about how many years it would have to take to compress rock like this. How much weight from the water, and how much time it would take to get it down this flat. And then how much time again for these pieces to be cut out by water rushing over the top. It takes a really long time. Take one more look here. Good look at our sandwich of science and those layers of rock. And think about the length of time that process takes as you continue to explore the Grand Canyon this week and more erosion processes next week. Thanks for joining me today.